It could be Kenya, it could be Fiji, it could be Tibet, New Zealand or South Africa. The people, landscapes and wildlife are so diverse you could be just about anywhere on Earth. But there's something very different here. It hits you as soon as you step off the plane. You know you're somewhere special and exotic. The ancient temples, the sweet scent of spices, the old world charms and the warm tropical air tell you you're on the teardrop island of Sri Lanka. The one thing that can really stop you in your tracks in Sri Lanka is how profoundly and how quickly the landscape and wildlife changes over a relatively short distance. 1 minute you're in hot, bustling village streets. The next you're in a cool mountain region surrounded by endless tea fields. You turn a corner and wild elephants are standing by the roadside with an African-esque plain behind them. Half an hour later and you're at the bottom of a huge waterfall, sheltering from the heat with the local monkeys. It's as if the trade winds have carried a few elements from every corner of the earth and deposited them all here on this one little island. And that's not far from the truth. Sri Lanka's prominent position along the ancient spice routes between Europe, Africa and Asia means travellers have been stopping here and leaving a little something behind for thousands of years. Marco Polo, probably the world's most famous traveller, called it his favourite island in the world.
I don't think I've ever been anywhere I could compare this to. I don't think, Sri Lanka for me has been standing on its own. This is definitely in its own little pocket for sure. Nice people, you can't go wrong.
Sri Lanka's culture seems so colorful, as well as their people. I mean, I think their happiness and their lifestyle comes out in how they dress, and it shows with the colors they wear and the colors of this country.
Travelling around the country is amazingly affordable. Basics like food, accommodation and transport are a fraction of what they cost back home. But the food isn't just cheap, it's amazing. Everything is so fresh. It's rare to eat processed foods here. Words like handmade and home cooked are not just advertising slogans in Sri Lanka. They are the genuine way to describe meals. If it's not spicy, it's not Sri Lankan. Even breakfast regularly includes a hot curry.
You can't get curry like this in California.
Culture in Sri Lanka seems to be everywhere you look. Temples, roadside shrines, street festivals, dances and major religious ceremonies. It's a full calendar in a country with a culture dating back to the birth of history. It's a place that seems to have just a little bit of just about everything. For the travelling surfer, Sri Lanka offers an experience like no other. Sri Lanka's west, south and east coast take the full brunt of the Indian Ocean swells all year round. The prevailing winds swing around from season to season, so somewhere on the island is bound to have great conditions on any given day. Sri Lanka's best wave is Aragon Bay, situated in the southeastern coast about 300 kilometres away from Colombo. It's a long, windy drive across the country. 8 hours in a car, crossing the breadth of the country, might sound daunting, but the trip is well worth it. It gives you a taste of just how much there is to see in the heart of the country. If you fancy the express route, SriLankan Airlines now have an air taxi service direct from the capital Colombo to Aragon Bay. It's about an hour and a half of some of the most spectacular views you're ever likely to see. Aragon Bay boasts sandy beaches and turquoise waters, making it a welcome getaway all year round. This quaint fishing village extraordinarily manages to retain its rustic charm, despite the recent influx of holidaymakers and surfers. From May to September, this wave-rich coast really comes into its own as a world-class surfing destination, with plenty of lonely point breaks along with the better-known spots. In 2011, Aragon Bay is once again the location for the SriLankan Airlines Pro, welcoming world-class surfers from across the globe. This year sees a men's world longboarding championship and a women's 6-star world tour event. Coming up next, we check out the wildlife around Aragon Bay. Aragon Bay is a true fishing village. The local people live off the sea, and it's been that way for thousands of years. Every morning, it's a pre-dawn preparation for an all-day trip out to sea. The fishermen enter and exit the sea through the surf every day, so they really have an appreciation of riding waves. The type of fish caught may change from season to season, but the fishing in this area is invariably successful. How the catch is divided is a mystery to the casual onlooker. People just seem to appear out of nowhere and take fish, but no one seems to mind. Every kitchen in the village must have fish permanently in stock. The best catch is taken off to market or sold to local restaurants. Old school four-wheel drives doing the heavy lifting. Needless to say, seeing a couple of oxen towing a cart full of fish is not something you see at home every day. These are the sort of sights that stay with you long after you've left Aragon Bay.
It's really fun to just experience kind of the culture here, because a lot of times on surf trips you're just surfing.
In the last few years, tourism has really taken off in the region. A year ago, this shack just sold pineapple juice, nothing else. Now it's a surf school and din repair shop. And the pineapple juice is still going strong too. It's great to see even local people coming to Aragon Bay to experience what the sea and surf has to offer. Krishna is a member of the local board riders club. They're flat out keeping up with demand for surf lessons.
The SP tour helped to bring more tourists here, and we are very busy this year running a surf school, and we're trying to promote more things in the future. So I all welcome you to come to Aragon Bay, come to Sri Lanka, and you can have a great time here.
It's not just surfing that's taking off either. About half an hour's drive from Aragon Bay is Yala National Park, famous for its wildlife tours. A few of the girls competing in the SriLankan Airlines Pro surf event decided to make a quick trip to check the animals out for themselves. It's not the sort of place you can drive through in the family station wagon. Special jeeps are required, and an animal tracker comes along as a guide. This is not a zoo. All the animals are wild and not particularly amused by having cars full of tourists interrupting their lunch. They saw plenty of animals and birds, but the one that impressed everyone the most was the elephants. There really is something amazing about seeing an animal this big in the wild. They somehow seem even larger when they're just doing their own thing and not in a zoo enclosure.
The elephant is massive, and there's two, and it's our first elephant sighting, and we're ecstatic. And they're huge, not like any animal back in America, let me tell you.
Some of the other animals you can expect to see are leopards, bears, deer, crocodiles, monkeys, jackals and water buffalo. There's also literally millions of birds and reptiles.
It's just awesome to see all the animals here, and just to see wildlife is always a pleasure. So yeah, it's a great place to come for sure.
It's things like this, the things out of the water, that really make Sri Lanka more than just a great place to surf.
Yeah, it's been awesome seeing like all these crazy animals. I mean, you usually see them on like Discovery Channel. Like every time I see an animal, I'm like, oh my God, look at that, look at that.
With the wildlife safari checked off their to-do list, it's now time for the girls to prepare for the final rounds of the SriLankan Airlines Pro. After a week of great smaller surf for the opening rounds of the SriLankan Airlines Pro, the last days of the women's event saw a clean, new 4-foot swell. Quarterfinal 1 saw petite 16-year-old New Zealander Sarah Mason up against ASP Women's World Tour veteran Jessie Miley Dyer. A true battle of youth versus experience.
It's pretty funny, like, I remember being one of the younger girls on tour, and now we're all the veterans.
Young Mason put herself onto the best waves and blasted her way to the semi-finals.
To get through that heat was really good, and I try not to think about like the age difference and who I'm up against.
Quarterfinal 2 was the clash of the in-form surfers of the event. Californian standout Lakey Peterson versus the stylish Malia Manuel from Hawaii. This heat could have been the final at any other six-star event. Both girls with multiple high-scoring waves.
And a nice strong cutback. This is a good-looking wave for the American. Whack!
In the dying minutes, Malia snared a great wave. The beach held their breath and waited for the scores.
Luckily, we had a few sets in. I just tried to stand with them, but it was tough. It was tough.
But it wasn't enough to win the heat.
Yeah, I was so nervous because they took so long to give out the score that Malia got, and it was so close. She can get a 7.5 on pretty much anything. She surfs so well, so I'm glad it worked out.
Quarterfinal 3 saw Californian Courtney Conlog up against Dimity Stoyle from Australia.
On the ball, ladies and gentlemen, carving top turn for the first move. That's a better first turn. And there's the second one, cuts back into the front. This is a good-looking wave, ladies and gentlemen, and Dimity Stoyle executing a number of manoeuvres as she winds away down the point here at Aragon Bay.
It was a real close one, but in the end, Courtney slams the door shut with this long, smooth, high-scoring ride.
Really relaxed style there on this wave. She's just working her way down the point, executing the manoeuvres, little cutback.
Yeah, really looking for these next rounds and trying to see if I could take my surfing at next level.
French competitor Pauline Adu took to the water for the last quarterfinal against South African Sarah Baum.
Sarah Baum on the backhand from Durban, South Africa. Big turn to
Pauline's low stance style and superior wave selection never gave Sarah a look in.
And then there's a big crack there and another tap there. She comes swinging around for the cutback.
Semi-final 1 saw two 16-year-old young guns, Lakey Peterson and Sarah Mason, both surfing exceptionally.
Young, goofy footer from originally New Zealand. Now down the line she goes.
Sarah led through most of the heat with a strong backhand attack, but Lakey pounced back, getting a solid ride all the way down the point.
Sweeping roundhouse cutback there to get herself back into the pocket of the wave, and there's another cutback. The wave is standing up for her on the inside. She floats
Her
over
last
the
few
section.
blasting turns, getting her through to the final.
Your first finalist for the 2011 SriLankan Airlines Pro, Lakey Peterson. Congratulations.
The second semi-final pitted Courtney Conlog against Pauline Adu, both riders looking smooth.
First manoeuvre there for Pauline Adu. Another little snap there. Drives around. It's going to be a cutback on rail surfing for our French competitor, and another carving turn.
Pauline looked like the heat was hers after a couple of solid scores.
And here's another one.
But in the dying seconds, Courtney paddled into the wave of the day, smoothly tearing it up all the way to the beach.
Great way to start. And a big whack to the lip as well. This is championship stuff of character. And it's a belter, people.
Yeah, it was definitely a close finish, and going into the next round, I don't want any of those because then you're just like panicking and shaking, and those aren't ever fun. So stoked to get through and can't wait for the next round.
The women's semi-finals rounded out a nail-biting day of competition. The next morning, the All-American final hit the water, with Lakey Peterson and Courtney Conlog, both from California, having impressed the judges in their semi-final battles.
Here we go, Lakey Peterson not holding priority, decides snap it.
An early morning cross-shore wind put a bump through the waves and made conditions a little tricky. Lakey linked together some big carving turns, but Courtney's lip attack was racking up some better scores.
This wall is standing up, and she does get vertical on that whitewater. Waiting for a pocket now to form. That wave was just checked a little bit wide on the reef. Now it's starting to draw again, and she gets the second hammering.
Home midsection, carves it in the top there, and another carving cutback. The 16-year-old.
Lakey kept coming at her, but Courtney held her nerve. Her more vertical approach winning the day.
Aragon Bay is amazing. I love it here. It's a right-hand point break, a little tricky, I think. Some of the sections get a little soft and then it all of a sudden throws out, so you got to really be on your toes, which I love when a wave does that because you learn a lot about your surfing. Just really thrilled to have a final with some good waves and to see a new place like Sri Lanka. And it's our first time coming here with the World Qualifying Series 6-star event, so I'm super excited to be here. I love the place, the people are amazing, and really looking forward to our next event. It was amazing having Lakey in the final, and she always puts on a great heat, and yeah, I had an amazing time.
Champion for 2011.
After the break, the men's longboard finals hit the water. The finals day of the SriLankan Airlines Pro men's longboarding was run in great conditions, with clean waves lining up beautifully down the point. A religious holiday ensured plenty of locals on the beach, and competitors were stoked to have some good waves for the business end of the event. In quarterfinal 1, American rider Kai Sellers set up camp on the nose and looked to have the heat well in hand. But 2009 World Longboard Champion Harley Ingleby from Australia had other ideas. His wave selection, trademark style and flow, progressing him to the semi-finals.
Yeah, I'm so stoked to finally come to Sri Lanka. Spoke to a bunch of mates that are on the QS and done the QS here, and they said it's a really good wave and it would be good for a longboard. So yeah, it's really fun.
Frame of Justin Bing from Cape Town, South Africa, gets to the nose, hang 5 can't use.
In quarterfinal 2, Justin Bing from South Africa ran into the seemingly unstoppable reigning world longboarding champ, Dwayne DeSoto from Hawaii.
Being the defending world champ, there's a lot of pressure coming into this. You expect it to win again, and I hope to. I work really hard to be here, and I'm really excited to be here in Sri Lanka. So it's a new country I haven't been to, so it's just a pleasure, a bonus to come to somewhere special like this.
These guys really make surfing look too easy. Frenchman Antoine Del Perro got some nice clean waves in quarterfinal 3, unfortunately falling on the critical part of the wave and leaving the door open for Brazilian Rodrigo Safir to take out the heat. In quarterfinal 4, it was another Frenchman, Edouard Del Perro versus American Taylor Jensen. The Frenchie getting some little runners, but not doing enough to impress the judges. Taylor Jensen from the USA surfed a near-perfect heat. He took off deeper and attacked the lip harder than anyone else in the field so far. Jensen was suddenly looking like the man to beat. The surf just kept on getting better and cleaner as the day went on. In the first semi-final, Australian Harley Ingleby surfed hard, attacking the lip with every turn.
Straight up onto the nose, and he's staying there for quite some time.
But world champ Dwayne DeSoto fought back, spinning the heat around to take the win.
Whoa! Unbelievable. Tricky 360 surfing, really.
Semi 2 saw Brazilian Rodrigo Safir tearing the waves to pieces with a powerful backhand attack.
Big backhand hit to start. Now he'll get vertical again. Very vertical.
Rodrigo pushed a little too hard and fell on what would have been his high-scoring wave. The mistake proved costly as American Taylor Jensen calmly took the heat with long, classy turns.
Taylor Jensen, and he gets great projection on that firewire of his as he snaps through the section, walks to the nose with absolute casual, hang 10, hang 5, back down the walk he goes, and sweeping cutback.
The final day of the longboarding at the SriLankan Airlines Pro had contest director Dane Jordan grinning from ear to ear. Great surfing, postcard weather, and the swell lining up perfectly down the point. In the final, Dwayne DeSoto's first wave looked like a gem until it closed out across the inside reef. Taylor Jensen answered with style.
Taylor Jensen, the American, hang 5, hang 10 beautifully. Now he's out on the face, extending the bottom turn. Big sweeping turn from the American in blue. Now this is his best wave thus far, and he has got more work to do for you on the inside. Cut back. Now that lip is begging.
But Dwayne showed why he is the reigning world champ with smooth, powerful, vertical surfing.
Sri Lanka is lovely, man. It's amazing. The backdrop with all the local people smiling at you and just excited to see newcomers, and the vibe is awesome.
great vibe here.
Ladies and gentlemen, your champion of the SriLankan Airlines Pro longboard event, the world champion, Mr. Dwayne DeSoto from Hawaii.
Dwayne and Courtney's wins capped off a great event. The SriLankan Airlines Pro had another dream run at Aragon Bay. We hope to be hearing these drums again in a year's time at one of the best stops on the ASP's international surfing calendar.